Hey everyone, and welcome back for another Conversations with B. Christina Fair is here. Now, Christina Fair does a lot of things, and I'm going to have her walk through all of them, but I'm going to give you the high level of who she is and what she does. I met Christina when when I moved back home to the Detroit area, and Michael came with me. She is a builder, a founder, a change maker, and a mentor. She is a founder who's already had an exit. We'll talk about that. But she's currently the COO of Hum. She's also the co-founder and CEO of Vela Advisory. We'll let you know what she does there. She's also an entrepreneur in residence out with Spark in Ann Arbor, and she's the executive director of the Detroit Executive Association. And you also happen to have a child.
Two children.
Do you two? I thought you'd one.
No, I
Oh
have
my God.
one graduated out in the world and one at home.
Well, let's segue in. So, Christina, hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. It's like a full circle moment.
I
I
know,
did.
right?
It was six-ish years ago we met for the first time.
It's
Yeah.
wow.
Hmm.
And as you all know, I love talking with founders and doers and makers in the Midwest, but I have a very special place in my heart for people who happen to be women and who happen to be moms. And that's why, Christina, I was so stoked to talk to you. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into your journey because I know from your early days, and you also are a Mercy grad, like kudos to Detroit Mercy. Tell us about your time when you started building and what that journey started like for you.
Yeah. So I think like many of us Midwesterners, I did, and I always use air quotes for those listening to this on the road. I did the things I was supposed to do. I went to school at East Detroit High School and then, went to University of Detroit Mercy and got my degree in psychology. So I have a master's in psychology. And while I was in school, I ended up getting a job at Quicken Loans, which is now Rocket Mortgage. And I did it just to pay my bills. I had a bunch of friends who were going to work there at the time. It was still a very small company out of Livonia, a couple hundred folks working for the organization at the time.
You're
I
right.
know.
It was in Livonia.
Yeah, it was teeny
Wow.
tiny. Yep. And so I found my way there and I never left. Ended up staying in the Rocket family for 20 years. I started in an entry level, like appraisal analyst type underwriting role. And then as the company grew, I moved over into the sales team. I led sales teams for years and then ultimately ended up leading innovation and process excellence for the family of companies. We called it Mousetrap. And so I had a team of a couple hundred folks who were embedded cross functionally across the business, looking for ways to make things better, people, process, and technology. And that was really my steps into building. I had a small subset of that team that would take incoming ideas from folks all around the company. Anything from a new flavor of slushy for the slushy machine to, hey, we think we should start this company. And so when folks would come with business ideas, I would help them vet that and put together business plans and feasibility studies. Ultimately, we would pitch in front of Dan and the Detroit teams, VC firms, and try and get some money. And then we would launch companies out into the world. And so that was how I found my way into entrepreneurship. One of the ideas that came through was from one of my now co-founders, Mark Hudson. Thought we needed to bring better fiber internet infrastructure to the city of Detroit in order to attract tech companies. And so a couple of software engineers and a leasing manager and a process girl figured out how to build an ISP and an internet company. And we built that. And we did that over about 7 years. At this point, all of downtown Detroit's running on our infrastructure. So the stadiums and apartments and all that fun stuff. But we sold that business in 2020, April of 2020. And that's when I met you. I launched my first thing out on my own and met you. You were one of my first people in that space, which is just really cool. Yeah.
So, and for folks who are in, the tech world or whatever else, just to define again what she said, she had an exit. And I'm saying that because exits are important because it helps with what people also dub the flywheel. So when you have an exit, in theory, you take those learnings and you take that IP and you help other things start, or perhaps you start other things. So I'd love to hear about the other things because you're still building, you're still doing the thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what brought you to the things that you started as of late with Hum and Vela Advisory?
Yeah. So, we learned a lot. We learned a lot in that space. Everything from, by the time we sold, we had a record multiple exit for our industry. We were on the circuit, cross country, helping other cities build internet companies to support their technology efforts. But through that all, it was this it was this really eye-opening experience for me that business is business, process is process. And so it matters less about the specific industry that you're in and more about the effort that it takes to launch something that you're passionate about. My husband reminds me all the time that if building a high growth business was easy, everyone would do it. And so in those moments where it gets
Good.
really hard, that's what I remember. Like, there's a reason that folks typically fail out of business and why it's only the top, less than 1% of startups actually make it out into the world. It's very easy and sexy to start something. It is very difficult to stick with it in the long haul. And so, since then, we got the gang back together, some of our old folks from Rocket Fiber, and we started what has become Hum. We are essentially an internet marketplace that we can embed into anyone else's products to allow people to search for and check out for internet within whatever application they're in. So I always use Rocket Money as an example. It's an app that most people are familiar with. It's a cost savings app, a money minding app. And so if you're in that app and it says, "Hey, it looks like you might be paying too much for your home's internet. Would you like to look for options?" My widget pops up and you can see what other options are available at your home address. And if you would like to check out for one, you can do that natively without leaving the Rocket Money app. So yeah, we knew we had a problem in our industry trying to figure out ways to get in front of the customer at the right time. And so we came back together to solve that with technology. And I think that's a lot of folks who are second, third time founders, that seems to be a trend. Like, we had this issue at our first company, so now let's go solve that with a new product. It's been a challenge. We've been at it for 3 or 4 years. We've evolved the product 3 or 4 times as AI has taken over, and we're trying to find defensible moats and ways to really be out there selling when a lot of the services that I think most SaaS providers have are replaceable now with tech. So, it's been a lot and it's been exciting, and we'll see what happens with it. It's also been humbling to know that just because something went really, really well the first time does not mean it's going to go really well the second time. So, just staying the course there and continuing to support each other as a co-founding team. We're really like, through the years, we've had to like kind of come and go as co-founders. One of us might need some support when the other one doesn't, and vice versa. So we've done a really good job of supporting each other in those windows. And then Vela has really just been born this year. I was feeling an itch to get back into the real estate space. I had a couple of friends who have launched real estate brokerages and mortgage companies, and their processes just blatantly suck. And I'm watching their customer service scores are low and their closings are terrible. And having come from a company that did it so well, I really felt this like itchy need to get back out there and help really the end user experience. It's less about the business itself, but like,
Mhm.
we're buying or selling a home. It's one of the largest financial transactions you're ever going to have in your life. And you deserve a really good experience with that. So we come in and help figure out, just like we did back in the day, all the things that are broken, and we plug holes with technology, and we train leadership teams, and we make sure the teams are set up properly. And that's been really, really fun.
But can you do anything about, I mean, I'm not buying a home anytime soon, but can you do anything about, like, the big stack of papers that you still have to sign when you buy your house? I mean, that is nuts. That is
Yes. It's
it
nuts. And a lot of it is getting replaced if you go with the right company now. There's a lot of online forms and ways for these companies now to go out into the world and get this information on your behalf. But it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, just like the car buying process, though. Like, you go into a dealership to lease a car and you're still in there for 9 hours. I'm like, how can I get my taxes done in a 1 hour window with QuickBooks or TurboTax? But for some reason, I have to go sit at the Jeep dealer for 9 hours. I don't know. It's
and
so.
sign everything away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that you set all that up because you're doing so let's go out with it. You're doing Hum and you're also doing Vela Advisory, which I love. And I'm going to ask you this question because part of why I'm so excited to talk to Christina, whenever I see Christina IRL, we always have real discussions. And it's so refreshing to have real discussions with women who build stuff. So I'm going to ask you, Christina, is it hard to do both? I mean, are you all over the place? How are you doing it all?
People say that to me all the time, and I know people say it to you all the time too.
Oh my God. Let's talk about it. I would love to hear your POV.
Yeah. So, a couple things. A, this has so much to do with your internal self. Like, the people who walk around frazzled all the time, and you're like, what are you even doing? Like, you're so busy. You seem to be so busy, but like, it's not that deep. And I think for me, I hit this window where I'm just like, it's not that deep. Nothing I'm doing, I'm not curing cancer. I'm not aiding in stem cell research. I'm not getting space debris out of space. Like, there are people in Detroit and all over the world who are building really cool stuff, and I'm just like building a couple cool companies that are interesting to me because I see a need and it's something I can do. And so the more calm I feel internally, the better off it is. But I also had a really great coach once who walked me through understanding the times and days that I work and function best in all of these different like task-based stuff. Because I did go through a period where I got very overwhelmed after I sold Rocket Fiber and I launched a couple things. I got very overwhelmed. I was like, I don't have time or capacity for all of these things. And part of it was making sure that my days were structured properly. So, like, as an example, I'm looking at my calendar. I next week don't have any meetings on Monday until 1 p.m. I like will not have a Monday meeting before noon or 1. I have to enter my week very slowly and very deliberately and make sure that my week is set and my emails are set up properly and all of that. It will be in client offices on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays, usually a teamwork day. We get together and actually
Mhm.
work as a team. And then Fridays, I go to morning yoga. I usually have a couple of sales meetings and then I pick my kids up or pick my kiddo up from school. I will work on and off through nights and early mornings if I'm awake. I'll do weekend meetings with clients if that makes sense. But I have found for me that it's really important that I stay in like my personal flow state and make
Yeah.
sure that I'm working when I feel best at working, not because I should be working. If there's anything you're doing and you're saying I should be doing that, that means you likely should not be doing that thing. And so, no, I don't feel overwhelmed. It's about structure and organization. Everything is time and color blocked in my calendar, and I stick to it and I hold it wholly for myself because in all of my positions, I'm very much in a doer mode. Like, I still have stuff. I'm not just like leading, I
Mhm.
do. And so I think that's the most overwhelming part for people is how do you balance like the sales part and the networking and the social media and all of that along with the getting stuff done. So you just have to be conscious about the times of day that you're getting stuff done. And I also find that the more I have going on, the less overwhelmed I feel, oddly. But I think that's part of just like my human design and my makeup. I thrive in having my hands on a lot of stuff. I can't get bored. And so as long as I'm doing all those things, I'm usually in a really good space. I find that when I feel like I'm grinding, I have to just be conscious to take a break and I have a whole weekend and I disconnect and I won't check my phone and then I'm good to come back on Monday. But it all stems from exact like we just said, like it's not that freaking deep. We're fine. Everything's fine.
And have you found like I've gotten to that similar state. I love that you said a flow state
Yeah.
because I try not to have meetings on Fridays if I can help it because
Mhm.
I like to build in a day of tinkering, a day of playing with stuff, learning a new thing because, I'm obsessed. Like, what else can I learn? Because I'm not a scientist and I was taught as I got older to trust the people that know the core function of something. So, like when I go to a salon, I just had my hair cut the other day. The stylist knows I'll give you an idea, but you're the expert. Look at my face. I'll tell you what I like and don't like, but I'm going to be quiet. Similarly, when it comes to things I don't know, I love to tinker so I could take that all in, but it's taken me a while over the years to say, okay, this is my flow state. Because to your point, it's so funny you said that. So on my wall, I've got this sheet. It is my focus one sheet of blocking of time, but I make sure everything is in three categories: build, learn, or think. So I try to
Mm,
break those 2 sections for myself. I'm building something, I'm learning something, or I'm just brainstorming and writing. And it's funny when you say flow state because for me, it is like early morning. If 5:36, I'm up. I might do a couple lunches for the kids, but no lie. Christina, I will still be in jammies and I'll be in my bed with a coffee and my laptop. And
yeah.
between 7 and 8:30, I am cranking. I'm getting
Same.
so much done. I might have some soft music in the background, getting it done. Like, wow, I got a lot of stuff done in 90 minutes. Phenomenal. And then I might have a meeting or something that I have to carve out, but so much got done. And then something happens to me at around, oh, I don't know, let's say 8:30, the kitchen's clean. I sometimes do get that night owl in me, but the
Mm,
difference that I'm 50, I've always appreciated sleep. And one thing, the 2026 goal for B is, like you said, your calendar is color blocked and things are like, that's it. I'm trying to get better at a certain time having that evening routine of I'm going to wind it down now. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to start my, I know it's cheesy to some people, but if you're a girl and women, you might understand. Well, some guys too. Doing my skin routine or doing those things before bed, it really helps bring it down. But what took me a while to realize in 2025, that stuff takes time. Meaning I can't just go upstairs at 11 and expect to wind the thing down. So that's what I'm working on in 2026 is being more deliberate with, sorry kids, hubs, friends, love ya. I
Mhm.
gotta go upstairs and start the thing. Have you found the way that you work and how those habits differed as you've gotten older and just knowing yourself better as a worker, as a producer?
Yes. I literally, you and I could live together and do that all day because that's exactly my schedule. I am up. I go to the gym super early, so I go to in either 6 a.m. class or a 7 a.m. class. I'm online usually from 7 8:30. I'll take Annabelle to school roughly right in that time. I get all my emails caught up. If there's recaps that need to get sent out or any action items I had from the day before, that's my window. Exactly to your point. In jammies with my cup of coffee. From 9 to 10, I'll usually take a break and get ready, and then my
Yep.
day can go on.
Yeah.
I am one of those people who will hit a lull absolutely by about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I need to have a break. I like to cook. I spend time with the family. We are we are like a phones on the counter, eating dinner together sort of family, which I love. My husband is an executive still within the Rocket family of companies, and I just adore that about him, that he is very deliberate about that, leading large scale technology teams. I mean, he has his watch on in case of emergency, his Apple Watch, but we are phones on the counter, spend time
Yeah.
together.
Same.
We have some TV time together, and then yeah, usually upstairs by about 9:15, 9:30, trying to do my self-care routine, reading, and then we are usually, like, lights out around 10:30, and back up to start it again the next day. And, yeah, I had to get away from especially women, and really even more so back in my corporate days. That was something that most of the women that I worked with really struggled, was work-life balance.
Yes.
And I've always said, I remember when I was interviewing for my, executive vice president role, and I met with Dan Gilbert, and I said, "Look, at that time, my kids were little. Liam, I think I had just had Annabelle, not even yet. I mean, they were little, little." And I interviewed with him, and I said, "I did not have kids to have them raised 24/7 by someone else. And that is everyone's choice, but that my choice was to make sure that I'm a very hands-on. I want to make dinners. I want to be at all the sports games and the music things and all of the stuff. And if that means that I'm not the right fit for this role right now, that means I'm not the right fit for the role. And I appreciate that, but I'd rather just acknowledge that out loud and just say, maybe not today, maybe later." So I ended up getting the job anyway, which was wild. And the hardest part of that, though, was then sticking to what I had said. So I had made an arrangement with him in those interviews, and I said, "Mondays and Tuesdays, I will leave this office by 5. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'll be available later. And Fridays are what they are. No one's in the office late anyway." And the hardest part was being in, like, some of these executive level meetings, and the clock would hit 5 o'clock, and I would stand up and dial into the conference line and walk right out. And most of the women that I worked with would just look at me like I was a crazy person, like, "Who does
Yep.
that?"
Yep.
And I'm like, "If you don't do it, people will walk all over you."
We have to pause for a second because I think this is so important, especially because, and I love I mentioned this in different videos. I've got different boards of directors in my life of different women. So I've got boards of directors for my, my OG like tech Chicago marketing life. I've got my board of directors here in Detroit with women doing the thing. And I have boards of directors who have nothing to do with my jobs or anything. They just know me. And we'll talk about this. So I talk a lot to my board of directors of gal pals who are in corporate settings and they love it, but this comes up all the time. And because those guardrails weren't put in place, they didn't even have the conversations because they didn't, kudos to, Dan Gilbert if you ever hear this, but kudos to again Dan Gilbert for hearing you and you having that assurance to say this is what I need and what I can't do. That's huge to and so many women. But then what I find is when I just had a conversation with a gal pal last week, resentment starts to happen because those women also didn't galvanize or maybe, have like a private, chit chat after work together, going to a wine bar or something. And I'm not trying to generalize women going to a wine bar, but having a union of like a virtual union of ladies, we need to do this together because we hold these functions, we hold these decision making skills. Let's do it together. I don't know why more women aren't doing that. And I'm
100%.
saying this to you, you mentioned full circle moment. When you're describing your day and your block scheduling, all those other elements, I found it ironic as hell because you talked about the real life of a woman, a working mom. It was so Tim Ferriss 4-day work week-esque, but more real from a practicality standpoint that no one is talking about because what you described in a different way is how so many I love you again, guys. I love you, my Silicon Valley bros.
Yeah.
You know who you are. But there was so much of like, yes, I intermittent fast and I block schedule, I have virtual assistants, and it was a different way of the dudes, most of which at the time and maybe don't have kids. What you described as the practicality of a working woman, an executive woman, high functioning woman, and things you have to do to still have that work life balance. And the irony is so many women are afraid to do that because, as you know, with AI, jobs are changing. Now I've got friends who are too afraid to speak up because
Yeah.
they're too
I'm
afraid that
watching.
if they complain or say something, well, okay, well, we'll just have someone it is this vicious circle of anxiety,
It
and
is.
add
It's fear.
to that undiagnosed ADHD or perimenopausal issues and hormones and just science and happens to women. I mean, what
Set up for failure.
yes.
Set up for failure. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And the hardest part of all of that is that, of course, we operate from a place of fear and anxiety, given all of that influence. And also, we will never show up as our highest and best self operating from that place of fear and anxiety and uncertainty. Like, the more confident you are in yourself and your ability, the more you're able to hold boundaries and the more discipline you have over your own life, the better you're going to show up for literally everyone around you. But it's almost impossible if you don't, especially if you haven't surrounded yourself with that, with your board of directors and all the people around you who are going to support you and hold you accountable to doing that. And I think that's the hardest part is when you have these large groups of women who are all operating out of fear. And that is the conversation at the wine bar or wherever anyone is hanging out is about living in this place of fear. It just continues to spread that anxiety, and then the depression sets in and the I'm not good enough and all of the rest of the things that come from that. And it certainly is not getting any better given the state of the world right now and the economy and all of that. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I always say how absolutely fortunate I am as well to have a wonderful partner and a great support system. But even those things took a lot of effort and discipline. Like I remember about 15 years ago, I went through a really dark, really difficult time in my life. I was in this role that I was not prepared for, that was really close to the sun. I was going through miscarriages. I was getting a divorce. My dad was he was suicidal and addict and all of these things. All of this was happening all at the same time in my mid 30s. And I
I'm so
remember at one
sorry.
point, thank you, lifting my head up and saying, I have one really, really best friend who I've had ever since high school. But outside of that, it was this moment of that I recognized that I had hundreds of acquaintances all over the place in my life. But when my life was falling to the ground, who did I have that I could call at 4 a.m.? And I
Yeah.
really put forth a ton of effort from that moment forward to cultivate those sorts of relationships, to make myself the type of vulnerable and open and honest person that would attract the same types of people into my life and the badass women who would hold me accountable to being as good as I could possibly be in this world. And when I did that, those were the pieces that are the unlock because exactly to your point, when you're scared, we know, you and I know that I could literally pick up the phone tomorrow and be like, girl, I need you to help me with this thing. I'm falling. And you'd be like,
Yeah.
I've got you.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
so many people that don't have that. So if you're already living in fear and you don't have those people in your life, you really need to figure out how to get those people in your life who are going to kick you in the pants and remind you of who you are.
Gosh, this is so like, oh my God, I feel like we're solving world peace. I think it's spot on. And then the layer to add to that, I mean, I don't want to add a layer, but I'll be real. You talked about things that you helped, things that you're building because of problems that you solved, that you needed to solve, like things with Rocket Fiber that you saw. Hence, Hum was created because of this thing and da 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 da. And then we talk about women in corporate roles and working moms. How many times are you talking to a fellow mom about just something in their life to try to fix? Just something. What excites me, but also makes me sad, is because we have AI, because we have these tools where you can build things and tinker and solve different things, whether it's lovable, replicate, whatever. We're not going to talk about data centers on this call, but it pains me because I know that so many intelligent women could do things they wanted to do for themselves. But it's so tricky because everything we just talked about, and maybe not having, people in your corner, or I know women who are accountants or are in traditional business roles, but they're like, I have this idea for this thing. I don't know where to start because it's no shade, but most of their personal circle just might be, like I live in a suburban area and, most women, have like traditional jobs and I'm kind of the, what's that called in the box, da, 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 that pops out.
Yeah. Jack in the Box.
The jack in the box in my group of like, I'm doing this thing, I'm trying this thing.
Same.
Makes me sad that I know there's so many women who can do really cool, amazing things. I'm not saying women have to be entrepreneurs, but they want to try something different, but they're stuck because of the anxiety we talked about and the fear and the full-time job and keeping that it's stable and consistent and being a producer, but then at the same time, having the energy
Yeah.
after that 9 o'clock hour
Yeah.
to learn whatever it is. I don't know if it's ever going to be solved. And I think in my heart of hearts, after reading all this stuff about female leaders, you've seen this, you're a psych major, the emotional intelligence of women, women who are on boards, women who are executives, women who have startups, even though they're not funded as much as others, in general, do quite well, sometimes in many cases better than men. Given you've been on both sides of things, corporate, but also, multiple time founder, I'm not saying you have the answer, but what are your thoughts there? What tips do you have that what we might need to change from a societal standpoint to make it easier for women to consider tinkering or consider changing things up in their career?
So, number one is it's important to acknowledge the phase of life that people are in as well. I have some friends now, particularly as I'm approaching 50. I have some friends that are in their 30s who are just starting families. And they're like, where do you get all this energy from? Like, I wish I could get up in the morning and work out. And I'm like, girl, you're running a company and have a 2-year-old at home. Like, I was not doing that when I had a 2-year-old at home. I was building a company, but I certainly wasn't working out and going out with my friends and going on dates and like all of these things. Like, you have to do the things that you have to do at life given the amount of energy that you have with your circumstances as they are. And also,
Huge. Christina, that is so huge. Keep going, but this
yeah,
is to be a poster because that's a
give
good
yourself grace. Be
yes.
nice to yourself. Like, you're burning the candle at both ends. If you're tired, you're tired. Get some freaking rest. In a couple months, you can revisit it and see if you can fit one more thing in. But once you get through that, I think that's when it becomes challenging, is knowing when it's time to add the next thing in. And so I think for me, the one thing I recommend is when it comes to building and tinkering, there's events happening all over the place. Like, you and I love taking girls to things. Like, we are like, grab our women, grab our girlfriends, and like, let's go to a thing. And instead of going to a bar, go to a build an app in a day workshop together and like build some stupid app that isn't even like remotely close to any business you would ever want to run. When I started tinkering in AI, I had a friend who sent me over a couple of YouTube videos, and I sat on my couch. John, my husband, was out of town for the night. It was a Wednesday night, and I started at 4 o'clock, and I would watch the video and I would pause it and I would build something using these tools. And I was on my crappy little laptop, and I've never coded in my life.
Same.
And I started, the first thing I built was a website with a box on it with cats, and the cats were different colors and they would bounce off of walls. And there was all this logic as to how many walls they were able to touch. And then I would like throw food at them and they would eat and meow. And it was just this like funny, stupid thing. And John got home in the morning and I was like, look at this stupid gig website I made. And he, as a technologist was like,
Yeah.
you made this? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, here's all the logic behind it. But it was so exciting that I was able to create something for the first time after years of like thinking and process design and all the things that I've ever wanted to fix that I could never put my hands on. And now
Yes.
I can just be like, here's a problem. Hey, technology, I can just talk at my computer and you can build me something. And it's freaking wild.
Isn't it? It's yes. And it's,
It's so
oh my
wild.
gosh. What I didn't, the AI workshop in my community, people came and they were hesitant when they came in. And there was a lot of side eye, corporate women attended. And I went through like, here's some practical things for life. And yes, we did talk about meal planning, but I talked
Yeah.
about my supercharged ways of meal planning, looking at the Kroger discounts and deals and helping with my shopping cart. But then we talked about ways you can use it for work, like how you can make your job more efficient. And then they left with, okay, well, when is the next one? I don't think I'm doing another one. I mean, who knows? But the practicality, it's like you have to show. That's why, to your point, great tip. Instead of going to a wine bar, go to a build night, go to something. And yes, be a fish out of water at first, but then at the end, it all comes together. And that's why I'm so excited to see what might get developed out of that. Which
Yeah.
leads me to my next segue for you because you also have experience with this. I mentioned a bit that women don't get funded when it comes to ideas and startups. I'd love your experience with that. And I'd love for the woman, for the young woman who's out of school or for the seasoned woman starting something, what are your thoughts regarding fundraising, the difficulty of it? Should people explore grants or, female cohort things only? What's your experience and what do you think about how somebody should approach that?
So I'll be unpopular opinion, I think these days. Fundraising has always been difficult, right? Like we think it's like new because there's so many startups right now. Well, there's so many startups because it's so much easier to build something. So the market is saturated right now. We were fortunate, with Rocket Fiber to raise capital from the company that we were spun out of. We had, the Gilbert family as our only investor, and it allowed us an opportunity to build something under the protection of a mothership. And with that came the cost of us owning far less in the company than we would have had this been something that we had done on our own. And we were okay with that. It was a very risky venture. It was our first time doing something. And in the end, we learned a ton. And that's all we could ask for. Now, when we came back together to fundraise for Hum, here we were, second time founding team. It still took us over a year to raise our full round. We raised the first round, with angel money, and that was just people who knew what we had done before, who didn't even care what we were building the second time. They were just like, "Go build a company. Let us talk to us later." But we went out to raise our actual pre-seed round, and it took us a year as a second-time founding team who had been venture-backed by the Gilbert family. And, that was very humbling. And I'm glad that it happened because it allowed me to put a lot of perspective to it for other founders that, like, our messaging wasn't right. We had holes in our moat. Like there were so many things that we learned that it wasn't just as easy as, well, they did it before, they'll do it again. That's entitlement. And I think that's how we went into the fundraising cycle, was this sense of entitlement of like, of course people are going to give us money. Why wouldn't they? We're proven. And in reality, like any venture is going to be a risk. And so part of the thing I think with a lot of female founders is lack of confidence in themselves or their product to be able to go out in the world and articulate what it is that they do and what their power will be in growing a large, high growth tech company. Like you have to be able to show who you are as a human. And I see so many female founders who lack that sense of confidence and are still moving from that place of fear and uncertainty. No one's going to give you money, girl, if they like think that you don't know that you can do it. So that's number one. But number two is, I think right now, like venture capital folks in general are looking around the world saying, what does the future of all of this look like? If anyone can go build something, if anyone can build an app, what makes your product differentiate? What makes you be able to differentiate what you're building from what everyone else is building? What makes it defensible in a world where anyone can build anything and what do you need the money for if you can just go build something so scrappy? And so, I see a lot of founders right now who want to go out and seek capital because they want to jailbreak from their day job. And my advice today would be don't do that. Like grind on both, get some revenue, make sure that your product is something that people will actually want and buy. If it will, and you need the money to scale, you have to be able to justify why you need the money to scale. But if you don't, own your whole freaking company. Like you can grind and do both for quite a long time. So if I had it to do over again now, like again, we already raised the money for Hum, so it is what it is, and we'll continue to grow that company. But anything I anything I grow from here, I don't think I'd go out and seek capital. You can bootstrap basically everything now.
Yeah, I mean, I asked because when we did Bottles Nation, that was all bootstrapped. That was us. It was bootstrapped, and we were very much head down, and we were just swimming and figuring out how to get wine and beer sent across the country, and hiring other sommeliers and cicerones to help run things. We weren't even thinking about raising. And I love that you said, you said some people want to raise because they want to jailbreak from their job. I think that is so poignant. I think that is so real. And I think that is a lot of what is, I think that needs to be kind of highlighted more in general, because I sense it too, where people say, and on the flip side, yep, with AI, you can build things and tinker and something can function. And I think folks think, "Oh, I can make this, let me go out and raise." But your advice is spot on. What's to say that it's what's defensible? Somebody could just take that, especially if you have it public on one of these tools, and just duplicate it, replicate it, have a better mousetrap, a better network for folks to use it and call it a day. I think that's so important, and I think people need to hear this. So thank
Yeah.
you for that, because that's
Yeah.
honest and real. And the other layer I want to ask is, with all that, Michigan Tech Week was last week, and the Mackinac Policy Conference is going on right now. With your experience with Detroit proper and Rocket Fiber, how are you feeling with the evolution of how things are going in Detroit? How things have expanded? Because you've seen it when you were like first in Livonia with Quicken, and Rocket moved over to to Detroit proper. What are your thoughts on how things have expanded, how the city's changed, and to add on to that, what would be the things you'd want to add to the city? Whether it is, development, whatever it is, because you've seen so much.
So the two things that I've wanted to add to the city that I think we've really been lacking in, one of which actually came to fruition at Tech Week last week, and I was like so excited about it, which is the corporate matching programs for startups. I love the fact at Tech Week, for those who are not there, basically we went through a vetting process, and startups were selected and matched with companies that could build them scrappy products or that they could be able to use their services. And I have been saying that we, both at Rocket Fiber and now at Hum, had this luxury of building a product and already having the trust built in with this corporate publicly traded company of Rocket, that they were willing to take a risk on our tiny little entrepreneurship startup product in order to embed and figure out, is it something that's going to work, so that we could then go out to the market with the product and say, we're already doing it for these guys. Now it's easy. That has historically been missing. Companies, these large scale enterprises, need to be more innovative and think out of the box in how they can help the entrepreneur ecosystem in the state of Michigan to find success. Carve out a chunk of your space as like a little tiger team to figure out how to quickly and swiftly integrate in these little tiny startups to help them figure out if they can succeed or not. In addition, I think that we need some housing options for non-hacker house type people, right? Like Silicon Valley has proven that the hacker house model works. You put a bunch of 21-year-olds in a house to live together for 6 months, rapid build, see if it works. If it doesn't, they scrap the product and they move along to the next thing. We don't have a place in Michigan where 46-year-olds can live with our partners and our kids and have this ecosystem of support where we don't need to make, $250,000 to support our families while also building a startup. So we need a way to support these founders who now can't get financial backing through VC anymore, but perhaps can get some sort of subsidy to help their family survive so that they can build and figure out if it's a thing. So however these two worlds could end up
I
matching up,
love it.
I
My
think would be
gosh.
ideal. And then, I think from an overall, like, how do I feel about where we're at right now? It's twofold. The energy is infectious. We have these massive communities of founders now and people who never historically would have thought that they had the ability to grow and scale a company until now.
Mhm.
People have support from all angles. We've got, this huge DEI focus. Like, you show up at an event and it is electric. I felt like coming out of Tech Week, like I could literally do anything. Like, you are a
Yes.
superpower person coming out of these
Yes.
events.
Yes.
And then, so that's number one. But number two is that's great. But then what happens is we try to create something and we grind at it for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Like, I saw all these folks at Tech Week last week that are grinding on the same products that they were at Tech Week 3, 4 years ago. And at some point, I think that still is a major differentiator between the Midwest and California. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Scrap it, move on to the next thing. Like, rapid iteration, throw it in the garbage and move along.
Amen.
And and that is, I think, the biggest thing right now is these communities have gotten so large because we're all still grinding on the same crap that we were 3 or 4 years ago. And at some point we've got to know when enough is enough and it's just not working, and figure out, is it a reflection of us? Like, we've got folks in our community. I have a friend who just joined as a new CEO of a startup that has been failing over the last couple of years. And the startup reached out to him and said, "Hey, like, we've gotten it to this point. For some reason, we can't figure this out. We know we've got something good. We can't get it to market." And so now he's come in as a new CEO and they're thriving. And so some of it is that, like, as a founder, is it time for you to step back and bring someone else in who can help take your product from B to C? Because a lot of times the folks who got it from A to B are never going to be the ones to get it from B to Z. So recognize that piece too. Like, where are your skills? Find the right people to come in and help you drive it forward. And if it's not the right thing, set it down and move along.
That huge. I have that. That is one. I agree on so many levels, and obviously I'm home. But that is one differentiation I noticed to our fellow Midwestern city of Chicago. In Chicago, it did seem to be that rapid. Does it work? Does it work? Okay, move on. And you mentioned the hacker houses. I don't know of hacker houses per se in Chicago proper, but I do know that for a series of years, there were a set amount of practitioners, CIOs and CTOs and developers who were like the team who would build different things for different investors. So when an
Yes.
investor was investing in something new, this was the team. It was the same team, and they're amazing, but it was
Yeah.
the same core group. And when you're in that group, you're in, and it was just constant, 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 constant to see what works. And I even know some guys that it's been like 15, 20 years. They're asked back, like, put me back in the game, coach, to build the thing again. That's where I came from, and that is one thing I noticed when I came home to Michigan that doesn't seem to exist. Like, no, there is a bit of that. There are some similarities, and I think about Venn diagrams. There's
Hmm.
different types of angel and investment groups that seem to do share different resources, but it's not to that level and scale. I think that's spot on. And I also love what you said about, for me, the hubs, the fam, to have a place to be while I build this, because if something is recognized as, oh my gosh, this thing this person is building could really kill it, but to your point, investment may not might make sense, but let's see if we can incubate them and give them a place to not stress about getting that jailbird card with,
Yes.
maybe it's time now to have this person leave the full-time gig so they can focus on this, but they have a family. Christina, that is huge. I think that is so huge, and that I think could be an unlock for so many people and so many things across the state. I love that.
Thank
Love that.
you. Yeah, I do too. We've got a lot of needs that I think we've come a long way in the last 10 years. We've got a long way to go still. And I think we don't really know what we don't know yet. Like, we've seen things work in other areas, obviously with Silicon Valley being the model, but we're never going to be like that. We as humans are not the same makeup of human. Our Midwest nice thing is just we're different, and that's okay. So we've just got to find ways to support people as they are, meet them where they are, and allow them to build. So, yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. It'll be exciting to see where it goes over the course of the next few years with, the Move Michigan stuff. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening. So, fingers crossed.
And we need more boomerangers to come home like I did. No
Yes,
pressure.
we do. Nope. All the pressure. All the pressure.
Thank you for the time today. Because I knew of all the stuff you did, but it's always great to dig deeper and get to know someone and how they built things and how they're contributing. And you're such a contributor to the space too. I think that's huge. One thing that you mentioned, like the Midwest Nice, that I noticed that I love is, yeah, it's cheesy to say, but people are welcoming and they do want to help. And that energy is infectious. Absolutely. But you're right. You leave these events and you're like, yeah, let's go. But then it's like, okay, I want to go. But it's like, which door do I open that's the right door in terms of how I travel? Like, which
Yes.
one is it? And I
Yeah.
think we need more. And maybe this is a call out to our family offices and investors and whatever else. Maybe there needs to be that beacon of someone to say, you know what, you tried that for 3 years, it's time to put it down. Like if there's a group, I'm not saying it's a court or some type of, a regulation committee, but it'd be nice if that existed. One thing that I do want to add to the combo that I think would be great for Detroit, because so many great things are happening with AI, OpenClaw, and so on. I would love to see a court or a panel of traditional developers, like OG developers. So let's say you're working on an MVP, that means a minimal viable product for something. It's an app and it's starting to scale and it gets to a level. It'd be so cool if there was a sanctioned group of reviewers. Okay, let's look at what you put within this vibe coding tool. You need this security, boom, 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 to scale it. That and at no cost, like that, if that could be funded by all the family offices, whatever, of
Yes.
when you get to this threshold of this thing and you get to this user base or this type of whatever, we're going to bring in the OG developer guns to ensure that it's stable and protected. Da 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 da. I think
Love
that
that.
would be so great, like
Yep.
another add-on to what we can use. And
Yes, I love that idea. And on the security side, like it's a win for the companies because in the end, if you're going to trial a product within your enterprise environment, you need it to meet all the set of requirements. So why not just help make that happen? Take a small slice of equity from that company and help them scale it out into all these other groups. I love that idea.
yeah, so
Yeah.
someone get on that. Someone needs to get on
Someone
that.
get on all these ideas. Can you just like do that? That would be great.
Please, I'm going to post this. Someone, if you're listening, just do the thing. Christine, thank you for the time. Thank you for your contributions to what you're doing here, and showing there's different ways to do it, but in your own lane that works for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being exactly who you are. You show up at all the events. You are a light for everyone who knows you. You build stages for people and I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you.
You're
And with
welcome.
that, we'll see you on the next Conversations with B. Check out Hum and check out Vela Advisory and check out Christina Fair. We'll see y'all later.
Bye
Bye.
everybody.